So, good morning, everyone. My name is Samir Dewan. A little bit about myself. I'm currently a senior software engineer at the Intercontinental Exchange. I've spent a lot of time in the startup space as well, in networking all the way to fintech, and I've led startup teams there. I've developed a passion for Web3 over the years, especially through the Chainlink product suite, and I'm glad to be able to speak to you all today. So today's presentation is on practical and real-world applications of NFTs. When it comes to NFT technology, most people immediately think of something like the Bored Apes collection. And I think NFT art collectibles are all nice and dandy, but we have really yet to see what NFT technology can do for us in the internet stack and see it take a foothold as the internet technology it really deserves to be. So I've made this presentation in a format that is digestible to software engineers, product owners, and blockchain enthusiasts, so you can go back to whatever organizations or groups you belong to and try and explain why these things are important. All right, because this is a entry-level presentation, should be digestible by entry, we're gonna go over what are NFTs. Non-fungible tokens are a type of digital asset that cannot be exchanged on a like-for-like basis. These tokens, like any other token, represent ownership, authenticity, and they're represented as code on a blockchain. And as well, unlike cryptocurrencies like Ethereum, Bitcoin, or even Chainlink, these are not like-for-like. Each one is unique. That's what makes it a non-fungible token. It's non-fungible. Now we're going to go over some of the benefits of NFTs here. We have a standardized protocol for asset exchange. What does that mean? As software engineers and product owners, just so you know, when we have an API integration, two companies must typically agree on our data formats, our protocols, our workflows, and this often requires tremendous custom coding on both ends. And that's just one integration. With tokenized assets on a blockchain, the smart contract, the assets representation, the token itself, has the rules governing the transfer and any other rules dictated by the contract inside of it standardized. This simplifies the exchange process across different platforms. Now, we talk about NFT technology. This is one-to-one with the benefits of blockchain technology. We do have that immutable ledger. Blockchains provide us a permanent tamper-evident record of all transactions, which is crucial for audits, compliance, and dispute resolution. With our traditional database approaches, they can be distributed, we can have replications, but they are centralized, and state can be altered. Let's talk about trust minimization when it comes to integrations, right? As companies, we often need to establish mutual trust or rely on a third-party broker to intermediate trust when we integrate systems with each other. With a blockchain's decentralized consensus mechanism, we get a trustless, or I like to say trust minimized, environment where parties can transact with each other confidentially, in some instances, depending on the chain, without necessarily trusting each other. Let's talk about real-time settlement. Tokenized assets on a DLT, a blockchain, whether it be private or public, can be settled in real near time, depending on the underlying DLT speed. Okay? When we're talking about traditional integrations, we're talking about batch processing, delays, intermediary checks by traditional APIs. We can get around this today. This is obvious. Smart contract for automated processes. Smart contracts can automate various business processes, ensuring that conditions are met before transactions can proceed. Traditional integrations will often require manual oversight or separate systems to ensure compliance with these agreements. This is a nightmare. You can use NFTs within smart contracts instead. Again, let's harp down on this. Reduction in intermediaries. Business processes, we rely on an intermediary. With a blockchain, we remove that intermediary. We have as trust minimized as an environment as is possible today through decentralized compute and through Oracle networks like Chainlink. again, we get the enhanced data security, which is inherent of blockchain technology. As with all blockchains, once data is added, it is immutable, cannot be altered without overwhelming consensus. Traditional databases can employ strong measures against this, but let's be honest, the ensuing audit trails when fraud is suspected are a nightmare because data can be altered. This takes us to our next point, transparent and shared processes. All parties on a blockchain can view transactions, and in some cases, the underlying logic can be viewed. This is the ideal case, right? In contrast, traditional agreements, this involves opaque processes behind walled gardens. For example, APIs. What happens behind my API, you don't know. You're trusting me that I'm sending you something based on a process we've agreed on. This all leads us to easy cross-collaboration with each other. We can trust each other, whether we're using public blockchains, private blockchains, a consortium amongst each other. We can work with each other finally. All right? This is another nature that is a combined benefit of both Oracle networks and blockchain's advent. Right? We have the direct peer-to-peer transactions, that's a benefit of blockchains. But also, when we talk about traditional integrations, they're usually siloed off until a bridge is built. We don't want to build a bridge everywhere we want to integrate. We want to build once, integrate everywhere. This is standardization with interoperability being offered to us, like we're all here for this conference for, we're aware of. These processes become seamless across organizations. Now, I promised us some real-world NFT use cases, so let's do it. This one seems silly, right? Because I'm here from a financial institution, but I'm starting off with this one. But I think this one represents something deeper than what it appears to be on the surface. Tokenization of gaming assets earned in-game represent a paradigm shift in how we treat these virtual goods that are issued by otherwise centralized organizations. Rather than the data being stored in a traditional database, representing the asset and your ownership over it as a user, you can take tokenized ownership of it. And you can do with what you want these tokens that the issuing party might not have intended in the first place. It's your token. Do with it what you want. I had my doubts on this technology early on because gaming tends to be more popularly in the real-time space, and blockchains tend not to be real-time, depending on what you're using as your settlement layer. But with the advent of CCIP, we can imagine a world where dedicated app chain could be run, and you could have users use a dedicated chain to transact on for the application, but have full ownership over their assets by transferring out of that network. Let's talk about something more real estate, right? This represents a category of assets that's rising in popularity. We've all heard of it nowadays. It's all over Twitter, real-world assets. Real estate tokenization offers us a transformative approach here in property ownership and investments by converting real estate to digital tokens on a blockchain. This process bestows us several benefits, okay? We have enhanced liquidity. We have the liquidity offered to us of a global network offered on a blockchain or now multiple blockchains. Now these illiquid assets become liquid all of a sudden. We can have fractional ownership. With the advent of fractional NFTs, that property extends to what we build with that technology. We can have fractionalized real estate. We can democratize ownership in investments to everyday people. Whereas maybe you couldn't invest in a full property, now you can own part of properties around the world and see how these things appreciate. Now, whereas this is a rising trend, real-world assets, this is more than likely not going to occur on public blockchains. This is going to be siloed off to private networks and consortiums for the time being, for the foreseeable future. But I envision a world, as does I think the Chainlink Labs, where this becomes accessible to all of us on public chains as well. Let's talk about supply chain. The supply chain NFTs, this is a very straightforward use case, one that initially when blockchain technology really took foothold in our conversation in the media, this was the first use case people thought of, right? We get a digital footprint of a real world good or batch of goods. We create a signature of it on chain, whether it be public or private or consortium held. And now we have an auditable trail of where these goods are, where they're coming from, or their derivative manufacturing processing. We can go back even to the manufacturing blockchains to see where everything originated. It's a clear audit trail here, right? Now, this is something I'm more familiar with working at the Intercontinental Exchange. In my current capacity, I work as a full stack engineer. I work across the front end, back end, and our database suites to build software suites that our internal BAs use to build products, such as Brent crude oil. And these products eventually from these internal softwares go live in clearinghouses or elsewhere around the world. As someone with a direct view into how this is handled today and how these products are reconciled and their state is reconciled across hundreds of disparate databases, I can really see how this blockchain technology supplemented by oracles could really make this industry more efficient. So when we're talking about financial instruments represented by NFTs, they represent a new avenue for us creating, trading, and managing these unique financial instruments. Their distinct identity on a blockchain allows us to create bespoke financial products, and we get to batch them together as well. We can have baskets of products, and we can unbasket them as well. This digital representation can simplify our asset management and ensure easy tracking and auditing of our financial infrastructure. Currently, things are in a very messy shape. We'd expect things to be clean, but it's not. It's over tons of databases, the state of a product, even within teams in the same area. We lose track of things. And blockchain technology really alleviates that. And through blockchain technology, NFTs specifically. And this is where I see the space going. And we haven't yet seen the maturity of NFTs, but we're going to in the next few years with financial instruments, real estate, supply chain. And I look forward to it. So thank you guys for your time today.